Alright, so this is my post-mortem slash reflection for our cave generation tutorial follow along, where we followed a tutorial by Sebastian Lang and created a basic cave generation and area that we could move around in. So I'll just quickly show it off here as I'm talking about it. This is my 3D scene. The camera isn't greatly set up and I need to fix this scene. Where'd it go? Okay, there. Second to move over here, but as you can see, generates a little scene. If we click this, regenerates it, and you can see all the little areas being opened around, and our cube is kind of stuck outside of the map right now. Okay, there. So he's not, can't really see it that well, but he is inside of the map. And it's a little wonky on the 3D side for some reason, but you can see him moving around. He's avoiding the walls. And that is the 3D side. If I quickly load up our 2D scene, you can see it a lot better. Move, see, okay, there we are now inside the area. We have collision, you can move around and scroll through this little area. Again, click, it starts another one. And since he's outside of the wall area, or outside of the walking area, he's now in the walls, but the collision is still working. And that is the project here, basically. So, what do I think went right and what went wrong with the project? So, for what went wrong, basically there's episodes 2 and 3 where he introduced marching squares and how to use those to create the mesh confused me a bit, and I had to take some time rewatching parts of those videos and looking stuff up as I just couldn't understand what he was talking about at a first glance. I'm not super well versed with nodes and stuff like that, so I had to look up them to figure out what he was talking about before I continued on, so I knew what was going on. So yeah, when he started to create the mesh and throw in all these different cases, like we had different cases for creating the squares and all that. You go from, this corner to that corner. I think there was 15 different cases. I had zero idea what was going on. So I had to rewatch that a few times and listen to him explain it out before I could understand it. I still don't think I'm perfectly solid on it, and I would like to try and learn a bit more about it, but it wasn't too bad once I watched a few times. And well, I'm not sure if the tutorial was just, going really fast or if it had to do with our Unity versions being different. But in the final video, it took me a while to figure out what was going on when we were switching between 2D and 3D, and I was just struggling to get it set up. Eventually, after I, rewatched it a couple times, I figured out what I was missing and got through it, but, it wasn't awful. So what went right? So although the tutorial was fairly fast-paced, Sebastian was fairly clear with explaining what he was doing and how the different parts of the code worked as he went through it, and showed the cave generation, which was really helpful for me with understanding what was going on and why certain things were doing what they were doing. And as he went along and typed out the code, he'd finish a method. As he's typing out this method, he would explain what was going on in the code as he was doing it, and then he would go over it again after he was done and explain, this is this does this, and all that. And that really helped my understanding and made it a lot easier for me to figure out what was going on. So, what did I learn? Well, I learned how, you can generate maps within the set boundary, create something like a cave from your generation, as well as how to set it up, and all the different things that we did through the tutorial, as well as, behind the scenes of these generations, and, how the marching squares work with it, as well as how that helps generate the structures of the code. It was really interesting going through his videos and seeing just what was going on and how we were getting this cave tutorial. I could definitely see this being of use in, maybe like a dungeon crawler or some sort of game like that. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see more. And as the last thing, what can others learn from me? Well, just, take your time with things, and if there's parts that you don't understand or you're not quite sure what's going on, make sure you either, rewatch them or do some of your own research, as it will help you understand what's going on and you're able to keep track of it better, and it'll help you learn more. 'Cause, if you're just going through a tutorial and copying stuff out and not understanding it, well, you're not going to learn anything. But if you instead rewatch it 1 or 2 times, Do some research, search stuff up. It'll be a lot easier, makes it a lot more helpful to figure out what is going on. And overall, it'll be a lot better for you for your learning. Yeah, that is my postmortem and reflection for this assignment.